What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Supercoach video. Today, we're going to be doing some tips and tricks for people that are playing Supercoach this year for the first time, or for some players that might struggle a bit and need some pointers. As someone that has played Supercoach for a couple years now, I hope that this video is helpful, informative, and can help you have a better understanding of Supercoach this year and the years beyond. Today, we're going to be talking about 5 points about Supercoach. We're going to be talking about the concept of Supercoach, what are break-evens, point of difference, how to loophole, and how you should pick your captain choices. We're going to be talking about the fixtures and the buy structures as well. So to kick things off, we're going to be talking about the concept of Supercoach. So essentially, the concept of Supercoach, it's a popular fantasy sports game where we essentially get to build a team of actual players under a salary cap. So you start the year with $10 million in salary. So players will earn points based on live match stats, and they are weighted by effectiveness via champion data. So champion data tracks the stats during the games, and they get scores, and those scores can be scaled through multiple different ways. So you'll have to choose a team of 8 defenders, 11 midfielders, 3 rucks, 8 forwards, and a flex. The aim of the game is to score as many points as you can, climb leaderboards, and earn cash prizes. So when building a team for the first time, you're going to be a bit overwhelmed. There's a lot of players to choose from, and there are a lot of different prices. As you can see, when choosing your defenders, you'll see Nasaya Wangani Malira is the most expensive defender in the game. That is because he has an average of 115 Supercoach points per round. That is head and shoulders better than, let's say, Jordan Clark at number 6, who averaged 105. But you cannot afford all these expensive players in your team at the same time. So what you want to do is, you want to be able to pick a balance of guys that are going to be able to make you cash, score well, and help you build your team as the season goes on. So that brings us to what we're going to talk about, break-evens. So when you click on a player, you'll see their profile. And right under summary, you'll see break-even. And what is break-even, you might ask? So a break-even is essentially what affects a player's pricing. A player's pricing changes every 3 games. So after they've played 3 games, their prices change. If they score over their break-even will go down. The lower the break-even, the more money the player will make. If Nasaya Wangani Miller plays against Melbourne and he scores lower than 115, then for round 2, his break-even is going to go up. The higher the break-even, the more money the player is going to lose. So throughout the season and throughout the year, you want to track players' break-evens because that's going to be very important to upgrading your team. So players that are very expensive, like Wangani Miller, he's going to drop in price at some point. It might not be straight away, but there'll come a time where they have a bad game, they might get injured, whatever, he'll drop in price. A lot of rookies, so if we go down here on our filter, and we go down to lowest price, we'll see a lot of rookies here. And let's find one of the highest rookies. So like Zeke Euland. Zeke Euland, number 2 pick in the draft. He has a 37 break even. So, as you've seen with Wanganeen Miller, he had 115. The reason Zeke Yulin has a 37 is because he's 199k, which is very cheap. So, Zeke Yulin, to make money, all he has to do is score higher than a 37 and continue that trend. So then he will get a negative break even and potentially make 50, 30, 70, depending on how he scores, will go up a lot of money. So while you've got premium players in your team, you want to target these guys so that they can make money over either a short period of time or a long period of time, and you can then trade down. So, for example, Zeke Yulin might score 380s and a couple of 60s, and by round 6, he might be 350k. So when he is essentially, when you might want to trade him, ready to be traded, you might look here and go, oh, Jai Sarong has played 2 games for Sydney, and he has a negative 20 break even. You might then trade Zeke Yulin to Jai Sarong. If Zeke Yulin is 350k and Jai Sarong's 119, then you will have 230,000 more salary. And that 230,000 more salary can be used to attach to a mid-price player. So you might have a player in your midfield that's 400k. For example, if we go to midfielders and we sort by price, and if it lets us scroll, we go down here to our mid-price midfielders, and we see Shai Bolton. Shai Bolton is 441k. That 200,000 that you might make from Zeke Yulin, you attach that to Shai Bolton, and you have enough money to get a Zach Butters, a Matt Rao, a Bailey Smith, a Nick Dacos. So the process continues. And essentially that's how you want to upgrade your team throughout the year. And there'll be times where your trades go well and you're able to get a lot of good players, and there's times where the players you bring in don't play well. And it's kind of more about knowing when to buy, knowing when to hold, and knowing when to sell. Sometimes you will need to look at a player's situation or a team situation to know when to sell said player. And when upgrading your team, we'll be looking at point of difference. So, in short, it's called a pod. What is point of difference, you may ask? If we look over here at the owned percentage, we'll see players like Jagger Smith, 75% owned, which means that 75% of Supercoach teams own Jagger Smith. 70% of teams own Harry Sheasel. 56% of teams own Connor Rosie. This means that you are very likely, if you do own these players, over half of the other players playing Supercoach will have these players in their team. So what you want to do is, you want to identify a player. So let's go down here. It doesn't have to be like just a random, just for the sake of it, because there are some really good players that don't have high ownership. let's say Jack McRae, who averaged 100 last year. He is owned in 0% of teams. So that means that if Jack McRae was to have a really big game and he's in your side, less than 0% of teams will get that score. So that means that you're creating a point of difference from your opponent, which helps in total rankings. It helps in your weekly matchups, whether it's against randoms or with your friends in your own private leagues. Point of difference is a huge thing that is going to separate what you do in your Supercoach year and how you're going to finish in the total ranking. So you'll want to keep a lookout for players that are on the high end of the market, that have high and low ownership, just so that you can create that little bit of difference at the end of the day when you're about to score. So Bailey Smith is owned by 7% of players. Nick Dacos is owned by 35%. So if I own Bailey Smith in my team and I don't have Nick Dacos, and Bailey Smith scores 120 against Fremantle, and Nick Dacos scores 100 against Adelaide, that is 20 points that I'm going to have over Nick Dacos owners. So that's going to put me ahead for that specific matchup. So if I choose to own a player that is less owned over someone that is highly owned, you run a risk of falling behind, but you also have that possibility of being ahead. So I hope that kind of explains what a point of difference is. So now, once you decide what players you want in your team, so for example, we'll add Bailey Smith and we'll add Nick Dacos in here. We're going to talk about captain and loophole choices. So we'll add in 3 players here for an example, and we'll put Rao there. So we'll just autofill just so we can properly do this. Alright? So we'll save the team just so I can bring up all the menus. Alright. So, loophole and captain choices. So let's say we're leading up to game day. You're trying to decide who you want to captain and how to loophole. So what is a loophole, you might ask? So loopholing is essentially a method where you're able to vice captain a player and take a risk on them scoring high so that you can take them as your captain and get double points instead of your actual captain choice. So I'm going to demonstrate how to identify a loophole, what you want to do, if it works, how to execute it, and if it doesn't work, what to then do. So we'll have a look at our team here. So we've got Butters, Rao, Smith, Dacos, Petrarca. So what you want to do is you'll go to the AFL website or whatever site you do to check the fixtures. You'll see who's playing early. So we see like Geelong play one of the early games on a Saturday. So let's say that you wanted to captain Bailey Smith. But Bailey Smith plays before Nick Dacos. So what you'll do is, you'll go back to your Supercoach team, you'll put the vice captain on Bailey Smith. It's very important, if you're going to loophole, the person that you want to captain has to play before your loophole. If your loophole plays before your captain choice, it will not work. So you'll vice captain Bailey Smith, you'll captain Nick Dacos because Dacos plays later. And then what you want to do is you want to identify a player that is either out of the round, injured, suspended, is not going to play on field. So we've got this guy here, Billy Cootie. He plays for Sydney. So we'll look back to the fixture and we'll see Billy Cootie plays for Sydney. Sydney play at 6:40. Geelong play at 3:45. So you'll have that window of about 3 hours to check, track, and watch Bailey Smith's score against Fremantle. And let's say Bailey Smith is on 110 at three-quarter time. You will then want to captain Bailey Smith. So you'll come back to your Supercoach team, you will find Billy Cootie, and you'll put him on field. So I don't know why it's not swapping. There we go. So once Billy Cootie is on field, so your loophole, it can be any player from any team, just as long as they don't play. So Billy Cootie will be our captain. So then the player that you move on field, you need to move to your bench and you need to click emergency. So what an emergency does is when a selected player in your 22 is either out, injured, suspended, could be last minute, could get hurt in the warm-up and doesn't play. If your player is selected as an emergency, that player will then come on field and score for that player that misses out. So then Bailey Smith, he's your vice captain. If this guy doesn't play and he's your captain doesn't play, your vice captain will then get double points. So this guy will get moved back to the bench because of a DNP. Dacos here with the emergency would then get moved on field, and then your vice captain will then get double points. But sometimes you might not be able to get a loophole because you need to look at the fixture. That's the most important part. You need to look and see who's playing first and when your loophole is playing. So, for example, if we wanted to loophole Bailey Smith and make him our vice captain to then captain, but our loophole plays for the Giants, that's not going to work. Because when the games start, the teams are locked. You cannot move, you cannot trade any players from any team where the game has just started. So just keep that in mind when trying to loophole and making your captain choice. When identifying what captain to choose, you want to choose someone that is one of your high-scoring, high-averaging players. As someone that has played Supercoach for 3 to 4 years now, I've identified 120 points as a captain score that I'm okay with. So you want to look through your team, whether it's through averages or fixtures, and be like, okay, Zach Butters plays North Melbourne. North Melbourne are one of the lower teams in the competition, which means that is an easier matchup for my player. So Zach Butters against North Melbourne is highly likely to have a big score. So he will be a captain option that you look to choose, and you'll just repeat the process depending on where he plays. If he plays on a Sunday, he's probably a safer option as a captain. But that being said, if Bailey Smith does not have a good score as your vice captain, and you do not want to take his score, let's say he scores a 90, what you'll do then is you'll quickly come back, switch it back. So you put Dacos back. You'll remove this guy from your emergency, and you'll captain someone else who you'll then trust to score on field. So hopefully that gives you a better understanding of what loopholes are and what your captain choices are. So now we're going to be talking about fixtures and bye structure. So during the season, every team is going to have 2 byes. Those byes will be scattered out throughout the 24 rounds. So there's going to be some rounds where teams have maybe 2 bye. Like there'll be 3 teams with a bye. So for example, round 3, Hawthorn, Sydney, Western Bulldogs, and Gold Coast Suns have a bye. So during those byes, you'll be able to come to this tab here, and it shows you all the rounds that have byes. So if we click round 2, you'll see some of these players are now shaded. That means they are not available for that round. So the scoring will then take your best 18 scores. So during bye rounds, you don't have to worry about 22. You just have to worry about fielding 18. So you want to make sure when making your team, you check the schedule and make sure that you don't overcrowd your team with too many players that are going to have a bye. So round 2, Brisbane, Carlton, Collingwood, and Geelong all have a bye. So what you might want to do is, when you're making your team, you might want to avoid having all those players in your starting team. You want to space it out. You want to identify byes that have either less teams. So, for example, round 4 and round 13 only have 2 teams with a bye. Those teams are GWS. So GWS are actually the best team this year with the best byes. And St Kilda and Richmond also are a part of those byes. So you want to make sure that you have the players available to play during those rounds and that you focus on the top 18 for the bye rounds. And then once it goes back to normal, it goes back to 22 games. So what you'll want to do is you just go to your fixture. You could just check it here. And then you just go up, round 2. Scroll down. There it is. 4 teams with a bye. These teams will not play during round 2. So if you've got like Dacos, Neil, Bailey Smith, Patrick Cripps, those players will not be available to play for your Supercoach round. There are going to be teams that have players that don't play for this team, and you might fall behind very quickly when it comes to Supercoach. So make sure that you really focus on those byes, because it will hurt if you don't. And then we'll scroll back up here. Clear that. I don't know why it won't let me clear byes. That's weird. Okay. Supercoach doesn't want to cooperate with us today. So checking points through the match days and stuff, I recommend using Footy Info. Footy Info is a site that I've used for a while. You're able to come here and you're able to check the Supercoach points during games and that. It's just a little trick that I do to make sure that my players are playing well, even when, I'm not able to watch those games. So, for example, if we just go to 2025, we look at round 1, Hawthorn, Sydney, has all the data here. We scroll down. We have all this. We have your Supercoach points here. So as you see, like you got Matt Roberts, 124, Nick Blakey, 122, Will Day, 148. So you can use this as a reference to check your Supercoach points. So then you go back and have a look and all that stuff. So that should be really easy for you guys to figure out. I've kind of muddled over my words here, so I apologize for that. But I hope that whatever I've shown you today has been helpful. And if you guys need anything better explained, if there's anything that I missed out, please don't be afraid to leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. I'll be giving you guys weekly updates on my team throughout the year with trades and all that sort of stuff, with news and anything Supercoach related. So look out for more Supercoach vids coming very soon. We've got the Origin game in about a week's time. Teams start their preseason games in about a week or so. So footy's about to kick off. Get excited, everyone. Footy's back. We're going to have a good year with footy content. And thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Take care.